I never thought that I would be here. There is a good Lord above, and it might take a while for prayers to be answered. And hopefully the next time that I'm standing at this door, my daughter will be with me.
Melissa Diane McGuinn was born on August 3, 1987. At just 7 months old, she and her family lived in a shared residence in Trenton, New Jersey, with 2 roommates, Wanda Faye Reed and Reed's common-law husband. At around 8:30 a.m. on March 6, 1988, Melissa's mother, Rebecca McGuinn, who went by Becky, was upstairs getting ready and had just lit a cigarette when Reed came into the room. She asked for permission to take Melissa downstairs and play with her while she got ready, and Becky agreed. Roughly 8 minutes later, Reed returned, accompanied by her neighbor, Lisa Montagno. But there was no Melissa, and she hasn't been seen since. According to Lisa, during that 8-minute window, Reed appeared at her home 9 houses away, frantic, telling her that Melissa was gone. Reed was known to be mentally disabled and functioned at the development level of a young child, and when she was questioned, she gave multiple conflicting accounts of what happened. At first, she claimed an unidentified black man jumped out of a car, knocked her down, and abducted Melissa. Later, she said she had dropped or thrown Melissa into the Delaware River. In another version, Reed claimed she had given Melissa to Lisa in exchange for $200 worth of drugs. However, investigators found 0 evidence to support any of these explanations. An extensive search of the Delaware River turned up no sign of Melissa, and investigators determined it would have been extremely difficult for Reed to reach the river and return within the 8-minute time frame. As for Lisa, the neighbor Reed accused, she denied any involvement and cooperated fully with investigators. Melissa's parents were also cooperative, and in 2011, Rebecca, who moved her family to Arkansas after Melissa's disappearance, returned to New Jersey at the request of investigators. Once there, she submitted to a polygraph exam, passed, and was formally ruled out as a suspect. As for Melissa's father, he sadly passed away in 2008. Over the years, investigators have explored multiple theories, including one that suggested Reed may have harmed Melissa out of jealousy. The night before the disappearance, there had been a party at the home, and guests reportedly focused on Melissa and largely ignored Reed's 2-month-old son. It was later revealed that Reed had given up other children for adoption prior to 1988. Since she was the last known person to have been with Melissa, she was arrested 2 days later and charged with kidnapping. However, the charges were dropped in December 1989 after she was declared incompetent to stand trial. She was then placed into a facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities and now lives with relatives. Due to the unclear and conflicting circumstances surrounding what happened, Melissa's disappearance is classified as a non-family abduction. If Melissa were still alive, she would be 38 years old, but as of February 2026, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved. Danielle Evelyn Lopez was born on October 5, 1986, and was raised by her single mother, Sue Quackenbush, in West Chester, Pennsylvania. She was a good student in school and a former cheerleader who was described as a creative, bubbly, and deeply kind individual. Unfortunately, 2015 would be the start of a long list of losses in her life, beginning with her 2 brothers. The first brother took his own life on Christmas Day, 2015. And the other died in a car crash 10 months later. It was extremely hard on the family, and the grief Danielle experienced never left her. She was extremely close with her grandfather, and after the loss of her brothers, she moved in with him. Unfortunately, in 2020, he died from COVID. 1 month later, she lost her father, and around the same time had to put down her beloved dog, Roscoe. Despite the struggles, she found a way to keep going. By April 2024, Danielle, now 37, was living in Woodland Township, New Jersey, when she strangely went missing. On the evening of April 12th, Danielle called her mother and told her she was camping at the Byrne State Forest with her boyfriend, James Scott Dunn. The two had been in an on and off again relationship for the past 7 years, and she'd been staying at campsite 77 since April 7th, 2014. Danielle was familiar with the area, as she had camped there since she was a child, but it wasn't something she frequently did. Sadly, after that, her mother never heard from her again. The following morning, Danielle stopped at the Wawa on Route 72 in Vincetown and purchased a coffee at 9:11 a.m. Security footage from the store showed her leaving with another person, but who that was hasn't been publicly released. Some have theorized that she was with a friend of her boyfriend's. Regardless, Danielle appeared to be in good spirits as she left the store with her coffee. A couple filming with their GoPro captured Danielle driving her blue 2008 two-door Hyundai Accent alone. Later on, at around 6 p.m., the same couple encountered Danielle again on Lost Lane Road, about 12 miles from campsite 77. This time, she was walking after getting her car stuck in a large, deep puddle. She told them she'd been distracted by looking at the tree when she accidentally drove into the puddle. She asked if they could help her push her car out, but they declined. They instead suggested she walk toward the main road to find help. At around 8:30 p.m., another witness found her car abandoned with its hazard lights flashing and a large black trash bag of her belongings on the ground outside. After that night, Danielle was never heard from again. The phone that the witness saw her with has never been recovered. On April 24, 2014, when Sue hadn't heard from her daughter in 11 days, she reported her missing. Most have found it strange that it wasn't her boyfriend, Dunn. He claimed that on the night Danielle spoke with her mother, he'd left with a male friend to go shopping and didn't return until the following day. However, Sue said she heard Dunn and the male friend in the background during the phone call that night. A female acquaintance of Dunn's said he arrived at her house on the night Danielle vanished on April 13th, wearing muddy boots. She said he especially asked for help with Danielle, but what the exact request was remains unknown. Earlier that day, Dunn had asked a neighboring camper for help moving his camping gear to a storage unit. He wanted it done immediately, despite having the campsite booked for another week. The camper asked him where Danielle was, and Dunn simply replied, "I don't know." When investigators searched her car, they found personal items, including the clothes Danielle had been wearing when she was seen at Wawa's on the morning of her disappearance. The car's battery was dead and required a jump start. Once the power was back on, the hazard lights activated, and investigators began looking over the car, but found no obvious signs of a struggle or vandalism. Sue immediately told the police that she was suspicious of Dunn. She didn't like the fact that he was 22 years older than her daughter and had past convictions for theft and drug-related crimes. When Dunn was questioned by police, he claimed that Danielle left the campground on Tuesday, April 16th, 3 days after her last known sighting. The same day Danielle was reported missing, on April 24th, Dunn was arrested at the New Jersey State Police Barracks after officers found a motorcycle hidden in the woods nearby with a fictitious or altered VIN number. It's unclear why he arrived at the barracks that day, but it's believed he was finally going to report Danielle missing. Danielle Lopez stands 5 foot 4 inches and at the time of her disappearance weighed 135 pounds. She had brown hair, blue-green eyes, and a slight scar on her upper lip. If you have any information about Danielle's whereabouts, please call the New Jersey State Police's Red Line station at 609-859-2282 and reference case number H660-2024-00052. Danielle went missing on April 13, 2024, and as of February 2026, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved. Mayushi Vikas Bhagat was born on July 12, 1994, in Vadodara, India. In 2016, she came to the United States on an F1 student visa to further her education. In 2018, her parents moved to the U.S. to live with her at her apartment in Jersey City, New Jersey. By early 2019, 24-year-old Mayushi, who was studying electrical engineering at the New York Institute of Technology in New York City, was nearing graduation and had already secured a job in California when she tragically went missing. On the evening of April 29, 2019, Mayushi left her apartment wearing colorful pajama pants and a black t-shirt. After leaving, her family never saw her again. On May 1, 2018, between 12:30 a.m. and 3 a.m., Mayushi's father, Bhagat, received a WhatsApp message from her phone. The message claimed she was fine, didn't want to be bothered, and would be back on May 3rd. The issue with the message was the broken English, which would have been uncharacteristic of Mayushi, who was very fluent in English. Because of that, her family doesn't believe she sent them. That same morning that her father received the messages, he reported her missing to the Jersey City Police. They held on to a little hope that she might return on May 3rd, but unfortunately she never did. There is now a $10,000 reward for information that leads to Mayushi's location or recovery. Mayushi Vikas Bhagat stood between 5'10" and 5'11" and had brown hair and brown eyes. She disappeared on April 29, 2019, and as of February 2026, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved. Roberta Ann Michels-Hopkins, who went by Birdie, was born on February 26, 1952, and grew up in a large, close-knit family. At the age of 28, Roberta was living in Camden, New Jersey, when she tragically disappeared during a severe blizzard in 1981, or at least that's the story that was told. On February 17th, Roberta's family said she left her apartment during the storm to get cigarettes and food stamps and never returned. When her sister went to the Camden Police Department, she was allegedly told that Roberta was, and I quote, old enough to disappear if she wanted to. 40 years would then go by before an official missing persons report was filed. After her disappearance, her infant son, Krishna, was placed into foster care, and ties between the families were severed, leaving no one to push for an investigation. Krishna never allowed himself to be adopted because he held on to the belief that his mother would come back for him one day, but she never did. Information about Roberta was almost lost to time until Krishna's daughter, Trinity, decided to submit a DNA test just for fun. That's how she learned there was never an official search for her grandmother. She had heard the stories of her grandmother walking out into the storm and not returning, but in February 1981, it had barely snowed in New Jersey, much less a blizzard. It's likely that her family just told people that for years because they didn't know what else to say. Also, through the DNA search, she was able to reconnect with her grandmother's sister and cousins. That's how she learned that Roberta's sister had tried to report her missing but was turned away. As she kept digging, she discovered a letter that Roberta had written 3 days before she vanished. The letter, dated February 14, 1981, was sent to her father, explaining that she had tried to attend his wedding reception but was given the wrong address. In the letter, she said she didn't want to ride the bus because they had presents, so they took their Camaro with bad stickers and bad pipes. She said they showed up at the alleged church, but no one was there. She said she just couldn't understand why no one told her where the wedding was actually going to be. It was clear she was upset and wrote at the very bottom, "I will bother no one anymore." With all the new information, Trinity was finally able to file a missing persons report. Before Roberta's disappearance, she'd been married to a man and they had a daughter together. After the separation, Roberta lost custody of her daughter, allowing her ex-husband to move out of state with her. Her ex was asked later on about her disappearance, and he said he didn't know what happened to her and wasn't even aware she was missing. She then became involved with Kumar Jagdeo Sr., Krishna's father. Kumar was originally from Trinidad and at some point moved to the United States. Kumar was the first to notice Roberta was missing and notified Roberta's sister. He then got in trouble with the federal authorities and was deported back to Trinidad. Roberta was described as standing between 5'1" and 5'5", weighing between 120 and 140 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. She sometimes wore wigs and went by the nicknames Birdie and Robin. If you have any information about Roberta and Michels-Hopkins' disappearance, no matter how small, please contact Detective Jeffrey Chimento of the Cinnamon Sun Township Police Department at 856-829-6667, extension 2075, or the New Jersey State Police Missing Persons Unit at 609-882-2000, extension 2554. Roberta was last seen on February 17, 1981, and as of February 2026, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved. Sierra Sahara Thomas was born on December 12, 1982. She dropped out of high school and worked at a couple of resort hotels. By 19, she was a young mother of 2, working at Caesars Atlantic City Hotel and Casino. She was also enrolled in an adult education program, hoping to complete her high school diploma. Tragically, she disappeared before completing the program. On the night of November 21, 2002, Sierra's sister Stephanie drove her to the 800 block of North Maryland Avenue in Atlantic City, an area locally known as the Back Maryland neighborhood. Sierra was going there to visit the father of her youngest child, Robert Taylor, who went by Dutch and lived with his mother. Before dropping her off, Stephanie told Sierra to call when she was ready to be picked up. Stephanie waited nearby for about an hour. When Sierra didn't call, she briefly left the area to run errands and pay bills, believing her sister would reach out when she was ready. That call never came. When Stephanie tried calling Sierra later, there was no answer. Concerned, she returned to the home and knocked on the door. She was told that Sierra had left with another man. Stephanie found that explanation unsettling, as Sierra had been specifically dropped off to visit the father of her child and had no reason to disappear without contacting her family. After that day, Sierra was never seen or heard from again. The following day, Sierra failed to show up for work, and that's when her family really began to worry. Over the years, rumors have circulated, with some people claiming there had been an argument inside the home that night, and that a loud noise, described as a thump, had been heard. While they have not officially confirmed the claims, investigators do suspect foul play is involved. Not long afterward, Robert Taylor reportedly left the state and is now believed to be living in Las Vegas. However, at this time, no suspects have been publicly named. Sierra was last known to be carrying $33 in cash. She was described as standing between 5 foot and 5 foot 2 inches, weighing about 140 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a waist-length black guest jacket, a dark-colored shirt, light blue sweatpants with writing on the leg, and the number 33 on the thigh, and a multicolored scarf. If you have any information about Sierra's disappearance, please contact the Atlantic City Police Department at 609-347-5780 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children tip line at 1-800-THE-LOST. Reference ACP case number 02-158598. Sierra went missing on November 21, 2002, and as of February 2026, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved.